Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Corey Behrens, and you are listening to the Simplistic Views podcast, where I explore the lives and works of digital marketers and digital creators. Today, I am joined by my friend Kristian Altuve, who is a digital creator for 0 Degrees Story, and he's a content creator in Chicago. So, Kristian, thank you so much for joining me, man.
What's up, Corey? Thanks for having me.
Let's dive in real quick about who you are and what you do. So, can you tell us what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so my company, 0 Degrees Story, I'm at this point in my career where I'm going through this identity shift because over the last few years, I've been a filmmaker and a storyteller at heart. But now recently I've been diving a lot more into marketing technology and marketing tactics. And so I'm trying to now I'm at a point now where I help people tell their story through filmmaking, and I help them make sure it reaches the right audience at the right time using Facebook and other digital marketing strategies. So I'm kind of blending in both of those worlds right now. And ultimately, working with a lot of local businesses as well in Chicago.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's back it up and tell me more about who you where you're from and how how that influenced who you are today.
Yeah. So I'm actually a first generation US citizen. People don't really tell because I'm a white male and I speak English very well, but my family actually was born and raised in South America. And so I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, in a Spanish speaking home. I was that white boy in kindergarten who didn't know how to speak English. So it's so funny, but yeah, I think, growing up, I moved around a lot. And I think also being influenced with my family from South America, it just kind of opened my eyes from an early age to be open-minded and understanding that there's different people, different backgrounds and contexts and cultures, which filmmaking for me is a way to connect with people. So I think that's always been this theme line that's been growing up from my childhood into now my professional career.
And can you talk to us more about what 0 Degrees Story is?
Yeah, 0 Degrees Story, that name for me is based on the belief that there isn't anything that separates us as humans. And I want to use storytelling as a vehicle to create a closer connection. And today, the way that's taking form is helping businesses tell their stories so that way they can connect with their audience through real stories with real people.
And how was your your childhood? You're moving around a lot. How did that influence you as a creator?
For me, I think I've been wrestling a lot with my identity. Because from being the new kid over and over, the moment I'd be comfortable in a new place, I moved and I had to be the new kid all over again. That, as well as at an early age, getting to go visit my relatives in countries like Venezuela and South America, and even Germany from my mom's side. I always felt like I was somewhere that while I could connect with the people, I kind of wrestled with belonging. And so I kind of had my foot in two worlds where I didn't really feel like I fully belonged in any true one place. But I think that's a blessing because it forced me, or it encouraged me to create that sense of home within myself. And that's something I want to bring to the table in filmmaking. Whenever I'm interviewing people who are different from me, I want to make sure that they feel at home in our environment when we're telling the story together. So I think that from an experiential perspective, that's huge for me, wanting to create a safe place for people to tell their story.
So we're talking about that you're going through an identity crisis. What are some tips or some tactics that people can use in order to maybe figure out who they are and what they want to do?
Yeah, I think it's just experimentation. Just be curious, follow. So for me, through YouTube was a place that it's my smorgasbord of everything I've ever done. So scrolling through that, my camera was always by my side, but life's musings were different. So whether it was cooking or video games, I was just always putting myself out there and exploring. And I think through those experiences, I learned what I like, what I don't like, what I want to keep, what I want to never do again. And so that to me, the analogy I love to use is I'm creating a mosaic. And so with all my life's experiences, I'm collecting pieces of different shapes, colors, and sizes. And now I'm at a point where okay, cool. I have all this raw material of life experiences. What do I want to put together? How do I create a larger meaning and purpose out of what I've been experiencing so far in life?
On the topic of putting all of that mosaic together, can you tell the audience more about what you like to do, what you're interested outside of filmmaking?
Outside of filmmaking, for me, cooking is whenever I'm not in front of a computer, I want to try to get into cooking. That's where I'm with my hands. I don't have to be with technology. I'm just there with food. That's a big part of me. And then another thing for me is I love endurance sports. So I've participated in Ironman events, a half Ironman last summer. So I love biking, swimming, running, anything outdoors. So those are the two primary things that I'm doing whenever I'm not working
Okay.
on the
And on
business.
Instagram, I always, or sometimes during the summer, I'll see you with the rollerblades just going down the streets of Chicago. And I'm like, this man's going to get hit by a car. But you know what? You're making it. You're making it.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of an adrenaline junkie inside me that I have to like what you see in rollerblades. That's me getting my
You know
adrenaline
what?
fix.
If you're not like putting your life on the table, what is it all for, right? What's the point?
Life is
Exactly.
short.
Oh my gosh. So how has maybe even some of that endurance sports, or how has that shaped who you are as a person?
Discipline, I think, is the biggest thing I get from that. Like even in high school, when I was a swimmer back in the day, we had practice twice a day, almost even three times. Like swimming in the morning, swimming after work, then lifting. And so I think having that discipline and consistency, that's like really important to me. And also, it's how I energize myself. Like fitness and nutrition is like super important for me to make sure like it just keeps my mental clarity going. And so that way, I need it in order to bring the energy I do into the
Say,
work
so
I do
you're
as a
born in
creative.
Cincinnati, then you move all around. How do you end up in Chicago?
Well, after graduating from college, like at that point when I graduated, Chicago was still home. Like my family was still here, like in the suburbs. But I was like in between two job opportunities, either going to Louisville and Humana to work for Humana as a business analyst, or the same role for a company in Chicago. And so like that was a big, which is a great position to be in as a graduating college student. But that decision was so hard for me to make. But eventually I ended up choosing Chicago because it was closer to home. I feel like the city, I had more opportunities in the city. So I've been here ever since, and it's been like a really cool place because I have friends from college, from high school, and new people that I've met along the way too. And I've tried to move away twice, but my heart keeps me here. So there's some unfinished work I
Someone's
have
calling you.
here.
Where are you going to move, or where would you have moved to?
Well, I tried to move to Denver one time for a for like my company. I could have transferred to their office because I love the outdoors, but eventually, like I realized that it just everyone was more excited about it than I was, and I wasn't. So literally a week before my lease ended, I decided to not move, and I like dumped all my stuff into like a shitty one bedroom apartment that I found at last minute, and it was hard to explain what it was, but like I was mentioning earlier, I moved around a lot, and that was because of my parents' decisions. But now I was in a position where I'm an adult, I have my own job, and I felt like just by my nature, I moving felt like the right thing. But it was really empowering not to move because I could choose to stay. And for the first time, I had the own agency and the independence to be like, you know what? I don't want to move. I actually kind of want to stay here, and that felt really
And have you
good to
ever
make
thought
that
about
call.
traveling and doing the work that you do?
Yes, yes. Ever since the pandemic, that obviously forced a lot of us to take inventory of what we do and how we do it. And I think, traveling, I love it. But I do like having a ground base somewhere. I'm kind of trying to work on making more of a virtual and remote business, but I know that part of me likes having a base camp. And so my ideal world would be, living in Chicago during the summers, and then when it's winter,
We both
getting the
live
heck out
in
of
the
here.
Midwest, so we're experiencing pretty much the same winter. And it's a brutal winter. There's like a week where it's like negative 20 degrees for every single day. And it's horrible. But this last in January of 2020, the years are like mixing together now. And
Yeah.
I was traveling out of a backpack in Thailand, and I just had the opportunity to realize that there are so many digital nomads out there. And so I'm like trying for the last year, because of the pandemic, I've been trying to figure out like how can I work remotely but still do the job that I do. It's very difficult because obviously for the production side, you have to be physically on location. And that's where I do enjoy most of the work. So it'd be really hard to peel me away from something. But, if you could get a pretty high paying job for like 3 months out of the year, and then have to just go edit for the last however long, do that, or also do it in an agency where you're putting the puzzle pieces in place and stuff like that. So there's so many opportunities that us as digital creators can do, but it's sometimes difficult for, having to realize that like, oh, some of the stuff needs to be physical.
It sure does. Yeah. Like, I think that's why I'd probably hesitate to fully leave yet, because a lot of my clients, I'm in here in person for video productions. And like, that's a hard piece to give to someone else. Like, I've already actually earlier this year, I had a project where I was trying to coordinate with the filmmaker in San Francisco, and editing that footage was like pins and needles, because I was just like, oh my gosh, look at all these little mistakes that they did that I would have not done. And so like relinquishing that control is so hard. And plus, like, that's what separates us. Like the way we show up on set, the way we make our subjects feel, like that's a huge part of the value we bring too. And it's I don't know if I could. You're not replaceable. I'm not replaceable. And I don't know
exactly.
if we ever will be.
So I guess on the subject of digital advertising, what recently have you been doing with digital advertising?
Yeah, so actually a really cool thing happened where one of the dance studios that I did a video for earlier in the year, they were, with the pandemic, the dance studio market was just completely wiped. And it was really devastating. But so they kind of had it was like a wake up call for all these businesses, like, hey, we need to adapt. And so after kind of like, working on this video with my client, Marin, we were like talking about, hey, how are you going to use this video to, how are you going to maximize the use of this video to make sure it helps you fill in new students? And she didn't really know how. She was working with some other digital marketers. She had done postcard mailers, trying to do like giveaways, but nothing was working. And so we kind of had a conversation for a couple hours, just talked about everything she was doing, and then ultimately helped her come up with a strategy on using Facebook advertising and lead generation with the video creatives that we got to use to advertise to her local market. And it's been really meaningful to see that work. Like, she's gotten hundreds of leads. She's filling in new students into her classroom for ballroom classes. And to do that in a post-pandemic world and to help a small business like that make such a big impact was like really, really meaningful for me. And so now my mission is I'm telling myself I want to impact 100 dance studios this year and help them like fill their dance classes again, because a lot of them have a lot of misinformation on marketing. They don't really have the tools or the knowledge that us as digital marketers and filmmakers have. And so it means a lot to be able to like support a business like that.
Honestly, so true. Times. Let's say that I am on the client side and I'm a client that wants to do digital marketing. How would you not sell them, but how would you urge them and educate them into having video in addition to all of the digital assets or digital marketing and copy that they have?
Yeah, I mean, for video specifically, like the biggest thing that the pandemic has caused is it's taken away our ability to be face to face. And so now it's like you can't really rely on people like walking in or talking to them. You have to have a way to demonstrate what you do. And so in the dance world, a lot of dance businesses have really crappy websites. They use stock footage. And so as a parent or as someone who wants to be a part of a dance community, you're looking at stock image. You can't really relate with that. And so being able to use video to show your community and to really like give people an inside look into what it's all about is going to be, I think it's huge, because then you get a feel for the culture and it helps them attract more people. So like, let's say you're a local business and there's there's a certain type of clientele you want more of. Maybe you want more young professionals, more young professional customers. If you feature their stories and you share those stories, it's going to attract more young professionals. You can't tell a story of a young professional if your customer base are older people, like, right? Like the environment doesn't make sense. So I think it's a powerful way to like really connect and attract more of the kind of customers that your business.
And are you currently building like that case study out, or have you already done that?
We have two case studies. We have two dance studios who are doing amazing thing after all the work. So we kind of have those case studies built out. We're kind of looking at here's the actual dollars of what they invested in marketing and that what they're getting in terms of return on their investment too. So it's very powerful things to do with videos, and like none of them had videos before, and now they have more business than they know what to do with, which is really a really exciting, cool problem to have.
Especially all the content that they're able to, I'd imagine they'd be able to use this content, and put it out as a content strategy and, put it out for a few months and stuff like that. So that's interesting. Yeah. Wow. What's your background and why dance?
It kind of just fell into my lap. Like my first dance
Okay.
studio. Yeah, I like because I work with a variety of businesses, but I met a dance studio at a networking event like over a year ago, and then she kind of popped up like, "Hey, I need a video." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then we did that, and then just by chance, someone else referred to me another dance studio client. I'm like, "Okay, cool. This is cool." And like you always hear from all these YouTubers and other like business experts is find a niche and dominate it. And I like was resisting. I've always resisted that idea because I want to do everything. But finally today, like this year, I was like, okay, I have to like this. I'm like, I started learning the power of like getting that focus because the effort I put into the dance world was just yielding a ton more results for me. So like now I have this like one path that I can pursue. And so now I'm kind of like taking on it. Even though I'm not a dancer myself, what I love about it is helping a local business owner and be able to make a real impact with my skill set with videos. And so that is rewarding in and of itself. And so that's why I'm like,
And it sounds like there's the same principles within it. So, you picked a niche and you picked a subject, which is dance. However, it has underlying principles that you have or values that you align with. So there's small business owners, they're local, and they're trying their hardest to be seen. And so, they have the underlying principles going up to that niche.
100%. I think that's so important too, like the values connection. Even what we're talking about, like identity and home, is dance is a way for people to express more of themselves and feel more confident in their own bodies. And so like that kind of based on my life experiences, that change that they're creating and that transformation that they're able to offer people, like I relate with that a lot. And it's cool to see people who are like really shy about something, they come in, they try something new, they're dancing, and then all of a sudden it's like you see the joy like
so can you talk to me more
emotions.
about like how you as a 20 something have been networking during the pandemic in a large city?
I think LinkedIn has been the place for me. Like I think there's two ways I look at networking is how do I find and connect with more people who are in the same field as me, just like you. And then there's also the networking of how do I get in front of more prospective clients. And LinkedIn has been a place, I think now that we're all online, I've been just sharing more content there, trying to connect with other professionals in my area too, when we can't just meet up for coffee. So I'm using LinkedIn a lot there. And then on the other side of the coin is like Facebook communities are still really awesome, I think, because you can find like other fellow filmmakers, fellow digital marketers, and just have people to bounce ideas off of. So those are like the two main ways that I've been networking from the comfort of my own home.
So I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is compared to Chicago, it's small. It's very small, but the principles and everything are still the same. Kind of. I guess most of the coffee shops and stuff like that in Iowa really haven't closed. Although there's obviously social distancing and stuff like that. But when I was working in Chicago, probably I think it was September for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, I was on a film project and just like everything is shut down. Like this couldn't do. Yeah. So I feel for you guys down there. But it's also been hard for me because I'm like every day on LinkedIn trying to like say, hey, this is my name, this is who I am, and just trying to make a connection that way. So it's 2020 and 2021 have been difficult years in making a community.
Yeah, it has been tough. I think going through it, there's just new ways to create that connection. But ultimately, that's what we need. Like, it's just weird going down to the Loop and in the middle of lunch hour, where typically it's rush hour, people everywhere, but it's like a ghost town right now.
So what's it like being a creator in Chicago? Like, how did you get your start?
Well, Chicago's awesome. Like I think community, like the thing that's really kept me here the most is community. And it was so easy for me to find other people with similar interests because there's just like, it's a very big city, very diverse, and there's something for everybody here. And just me being someone who naturally puts myself out there, I just really easily made new friends who just have similar passions for me. And so I think Chicago, the community is awesome. Like what I hear a lot is it doesn't have the stuck upness as New York, and it doesn't have like whatever, like it's like a cool blend of East Coast and West Coast. Like people are down to earth, they're real, they're fun to hang out with, and you really feel that vibe. Like you can approach anyone and like they're going to be generally very kind. Like the Midwestern hospitality is real here, so I absolutely love it. It's like it makes it easier too to put yourself out there and meet strangers because everyone's so warm.
Honestly, that's the kind of vibe I get every time I go to Chicago, which is nice. So I guess maybe you can wrap it up here. I have one last question for you. So let's say that I'm a digital marketer or digital creator. I live in a smaller town, or I live out in the Midwest, and I am wanting to make a transition in my life. How do I move myself from a small town into like maybe a Chicago or something that's similar size to that? And like, what are some avenues I go down being a digital creator and making my name there?
Yeah, I think the principle, like I think that what's helped me, I think with no matter where you are and where you want to go, I personally believe that resumes and all that stuff is just going to be obsolete in the future. And so I think finding where you can make a real impact with your skills, no matter how small, whether that's like a local business, having real case studies and real examples that you can demonstrate and show your work is just going to be a door opener for anywhere you go. And so like kind of the example that I shared earlier with helping out a dance studio, that for me was like my learning ground. I was confident with the video, but less so much about the digital marketing side. But I found someone who trusts me. They're willing to take the risk. And, now we're succeeding after making some mistakes. Now we're kind of working. And now I have a great example and a great story. And now I can go to a bigger company. And I actually I used it to that story of a small business to help land projects with bigger clients, because like you said, the principles are the same. And what people care about more is the way you think about things. And so find yourself a little project to make a real impact. And then you can use that as your launching pad for other opportunities.
Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and taking the time to talk with us today. All right. Well, thank you for watching this episode of the Simplistic Views podcast. I release these every Tuesday, so go ahead and check next week and have a great time. Peace.